Test, test, test. Can you hear me? Test, test. Test, test. Can you hear me? Please. Okay, great. So basically the point of this live right now is to go over these guidelines that the Social Security Administration recently released. They released it on May 7th. Now, a lot of this is just, if you've been following the channel, this is all stuff that I have covered before on the channel. But because the Social Security Administration put this out, I thought I'd just do this quick live right now to just go over it. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to all the moms out there. All right. So basically, what is this document? They basically put out this table of various situations, describing if you file a tax return or not, and then it says what must you do to receive your stimulus, what must you do to receive the $500 per qualifying child, when and how will you receive the $1,200 stimulus, when and how will you receive the $500 for each child. So I'm basically going to go through this, and then at the end, I'm going to talk about the new Social Security guidelines on the interaction of representative payees and stimulus payments. So you can find all this information yourself, by the way, at this web address here. It's super long, but I'll put it in the description when this live is done. Just so you know how to digest this information yourself. Okay, so we're going to skip this first page because it's basically just describing stuff in general, and I'm going to walk through all these scenarios here. Now, again, if you've been following the channel, you've heard a lot of this stuff, but this is really for the benefit of those who may be new to the channel and haven't heard this stuff before. So this first page here, it's page 3 of this document. You got to look at the blue to see what people this is describing. So this is if you began receiving Social Security retirement survivors or disability SSDI benefits before January 1st, 2020. And this whole page is for those who have filed a 2019 or 2018 tax return who are in this group. Okay, so notice who's not in this group. SSI is not in this group. SSI has its own page later. But this is saying, look, if you filed a tax return in 2018 or 2019, then you don't have to do anything, right? You're kind of in that whole group of people who, just like everyone else, right, who aren't on Social Security. Now, the thing is here, if it kind of depends on the IRS processes your stimulus, right? So if to figure out how your stimulus would be deposited. So if you filed your tax return like late, right, like later in April, the IRS will just use your Social Security Administration data. But if you filed your tax return early, it's likely that the IRS would use your tax return data to know where to send your stimulus. Okay, so it says right here, when and how will I receive my $1,200 payment? It says the IRS. Wait, I'm not doing this. Let's see. How do I share my screen here? Let me see. Let's see. Can I even share my screen? Let me see. Can you share screen on YouTube? You know what? I'm an idiot. I thought you could screen share on YouTube, but apparently you can't. So I'm just going to answer some questions. All right. So what's the latest question here? Anything new for the ones? So Arnett Hackinson says, anything new for the ones who didn't get the $500 dependent portion? Yes, actually there is. A group of senators actually sent a letter to Mnuchin, the Secretary of the Treasury, and the Commissioner of the IRS just yesterday, telling them that, hey, you need to fix this for people. So I'm going to talk more about that letter tomorrow in my update. But that was just yesterday, actually. I see Rebecca Smith says, I'm on SSI and I'll get my deposit. Will I get my deposit May 13th? Yes, according to the Social Security Administration, the chart I actually wanted to go over right now. But either I can't figure out how to screen share or you can't screen share. I'll read you exactly what it says. So if you began receiving Social Security income before January 1st, 2020, the Social Security Administration says you should receive your $1,200 payment in the same way you receive your monthly SSI payment, direct deposit and direct express by May 13th. Paper checks will begin May 5th. So I'll put that link right here. SSA guide to stimulus. So I just put that link in the chat for whoever asked that question. Let's see. Updates on the things. It says, so Sarah says, mine says May 13th. I got mine the 8th. Yeah, that's what happens. People are sometimes the information they give you is not accurate. Sometimes that works in your favor and sometimes not. Moses asked, will there be another stimulus check? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. Just my personal thoughts on this are I would like to see another check, especially for those who really need it. But what I think is ridiculous is the latest proposal from, Bernie and Harris that said that, married families making up to 200 grand a year with 3 kids could potentially get an extra 10K a month. Like personally, I don't like that, because I don't believe that a married couple with 3 kids doing well, making up to 200K a year, needs an extra 10K of income tax free. Essentially, that's essentially, I don't like that. I think if there is more stimulus, it should be more targeted than that. That's my personal opinion. And because think about it, Trump wants to reopen the economy and all that, right? But what about the people who, don't have jobs to go back to or who are not attached to the labor force? I think that's the group that we should be thinking about in terms of a stimulus. I don't think that people who, by any measure, make a really good living need an extra 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K, 10K a month tax free. That's my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with it. Let's see. My son is the age of 20. Maria Hidalgo. I am his payee. I think you said pay. I think you mean he is payee. He is on SSI. He did file taxes in 2019. Will he receive a stimulus? So now this is an interesting question, because if he did file taxes in 2019 and he wasn't able to be claimed as a dependent, I would say yes, he should receive a stimulus. Now you also said that you are his pay. You say his pay, but I think you meant, Maria, his representative payee. So the IRS actually released guidance on representative payees, and I can't figure out how to share my screen because I wanted to go over this here. Well, actually, not the IRS, the SSA released this guidance. They said that for representative payees, right? Now, your son wouldn't fit into the situation, Maria, but for representative payees, so basically stimulus recipients who have a representative payee, if you did not file a 2018 or 2019 tax return, then the IRS is going to use the SSA information to get the stimulus to that individual. However, the IRS has not yet determined when those stimulus payments will be processed. Okay, so if you're receiving benefits and you have a representative payee, the IRS at this point says you don't have to take further action, but they just don't know when they're going to send those stimulus payments yet. Okay, now, Maria, this is your situation, or your son's situation. You say that you're his representative payee, but he did file a tax return. So in that case, the Social Security Administration is saying that, yes, the stimulus will be sent to the bank account provided on his tax return or mailed to the address on his tax return if a tax refund was mailed or if there was no refund. So kind of a shortcut here. I would say that for those who do have a representative payee and did not file a tax return, it's possible that filing the non-filers tool will could expedite that, because at this point, the Social Security Administration says that the IRS has not determined when stimulus payments for those beneficiaries who have a representative payee and who do not file a tax return will be processed. Let's see. So let's see. Do people The Korea yacht. Do people in SSI get their money taken from child support? Let's see here. I have heard reports of people receiving benefits not getting the child support taken out, but there was no particular carve out though in the CARES Act specifically for that. And if you do get the full amount, then that would probably be a slight oversight. But there was no specific exclusion in the CARES Act for that. Let's see. SSDI still have not got. Yeah, there are a lot of people who, what the SSA officially said in the document is that people on Social Security and SSDI should have received their payment at the end of April, but that is a lot. There's a lot who have not gotten it, obviously. Let me see. Let me see if I can screen share because I really wanted to walk through this. The Social Security information, the guide they gave. Not sure. Let's see. Ray the Gem. My son is 4 and gets SSI. Would he get the 1,200? Well, no, because I assume that a 4-year-old that he's eligible to be claimed as a dependent. And if that's the case, whoever claims him as a dependent would get the 500, regardless of if he's on SSI or not. Wow, these are going fast. Grandmother received Social Security benefits, but was claimed as a dependent on a 2019 tax return. Will she receive a stimulus check? No. She won't receive a stimulus check if she was claimed as a dependent on a 2019 tax return, Miguel. But I would say, now obviously, I don't know if she's able to do this, but if she can not be claimed as a dependent in 2020, she would be, theoretically able to file a tax return and get the $1,200 through her 2020 tax return. Of course, it's not just a matter of whoever claimed her not claiming her. She actually has to be. She can't be eligible at all in 2020 to be claimed as a dependent. That might be hard for a grandmother, obviously, because maybe she's just older and there's no way she could support herself. But for younger people, for younger adults, even if they're claimed as a dependent in 2018 and 2019, if they're no longer a dependent in 2020, they won't get a stimulus check, but they can still get the $1,200 through their 2020 tax return. She's evil government thought. I don't know who you're referring to. YouTube Ward. How can someone? Sound Mixer. How can someone claim an adult as a dependent? That's actually quite common. I think about a lot of older folks, parents, grandparents, things like that, or disabled adult children, college students, right? That's kind of the big one that they were talking about. But basically, if you provide the majority of their support and they don't make very much money, they can be claimed as dependents. So let's see. Woody Corbett. So you're saying people that has payee won't get their money yet. So that is what the Social Security Administration said. And I'll put this link here for you. It's ssa.gov/coronavirus. You can look it up yourself, but they're basically saying that for those beneficiaries who have a representative payee and did not file a tax return, this is exactly what it says. The IRS has not yet determined when their EIPs, economic impact payments, stimulus payments, will be processed. Okay. Jeffrey Cowart, why can't dependents receive checks? It's not fair at all. Yeah, that is just that's how the CARES Act was written. Now, I know on the in CARES 2, which Pelosi has, and other Democrats have hinted we will see very soon, at least their draft of it, their bill, that they do want to include all dependents for stimulus in that. So we'll see if that happens. Of course, That doesn't mean it's a guarantee. As I've said in a lot of my videos, it'll have to get through Mitch, of course, right? And frankly, I think he's will be more of a hurdle to further stimulus than even Trump himself. I believe they had poor people addicted to JC. I believe they had poor people do non-file and didn't give us money for our kids just to make us file next year, get 500. I mean, I don't know if there's a conspiracy or anything going on like that, but I do know that, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it has gotten the attention of several senators that many people with dependent children have not received the $500 for them. And they sent a letter to Mnuchin and the IRS commissioner yesterday. And I'm going to go over that letter in my updates tomorrow. Let's see. Care Bear, is a government filled with chuckleheads or reasonable beings capable of compromise for the good of the people? Well, there are a lot of chuckleheads in government, but I mean, the original CARES Act was an example of a compromise, and it was bipartisan. It's not everything is in there that I think I wanted in there. I know a lot of you wanted in there, but it was an example of Congress coming together. But in this next round, though, my personal opinion is that Trump has said, "Hey, we want to get the economy going again," right? And he wants to get people back to work, right? Whether that's a good idea or not from a health perspective, I can't really speak to that. I'm not an expert in that, but that's what he has said. And if you're married with 3 kids and you're getting a $10,000 check a month, like the Harris Sanders proposal, I don't know how much incentive you'd have to get back to work and potentially risk your health because there's still a virus out there, right? I mean, that's just my personal take. Let's see. Robert, what if you get SSI, Social Security retirement? Are you still eligible? Yes, as long as you can't be claimed as a dependent and you don't make too much money. Jeffrey Cowart, they ain't going to pass a $2,000 a month. That's way too much money. I mean, as I've said in previous videos, I think that McConnell will present a huge roadblock to that, and that is also just an immense amount of money, especially the way that they've written it. The emergency money for the people could be up to $5,500 per household. The recent one up to $10,000. That's just so much money. Okay, James Blackburn, what if you filed a paper return when they told SSDI they had to do a simple return? When will they process? Now, SSA has said, look, I mean, they are looking, the IRS is looking at those non-filers, right? Oh, but you said you did a paper return. You didn't say non-filers. James, I would say if you filed a paper return, wow, it really depends when you did that. Okay, what if you filed a paper return when they told SSDI they had to do a simple return? When will they process? Okay, so I assume you filed this paper tax return relatively late. Like you didn't file it, I filed it probably sometime in April, I would assume. I would assume that the IRS has not processed that paper return because, they announced that they were stopping processing paper returns in the middle of April. So I imagine, James, that you would be your statements will be processed as though you did not file a paper return. Okay, because I really don't think the IRS got around to filing your paper return, assuming you filed it sometime in April. Okay, Brent Hughes, what if someone tried to claim you but didn't get any money for you? Will you still get a $1,200 check? So if the IRS sees on their tax return that you were claimed, regardless of whether or not they got a benefit for it, then you would be ineligible. Now, Brent, the question is really, were they eligible to claim you in the first place? Okay. If they were eligible to claim you in the first place, then you would not be eligible. If they were not eligible to claim you in the first place, I'd be curious what went on there, and you should probably have a conversation with them. Phil B, do you think one more check? Yeah, I think that one more check is a possibility. Okay. Because it would be a kickstart to the economy, and that's what that's what we need. I mean, it's not like we're going to snap our fingers, all the states are going to reopen, and it's going to be back to normal. That's not going to be the case. I mean, some projections have said that unemployment will still be as high as 9.5%, not at the end of this year, but at the end of 2021. Right? I don't know if you guys saw Mnuchin today. But he was saying that, I mean, the real unemployment right now is over 20%. Of course, a lot of those are temporary, layoffs, but the reality is there's a lot of jobs that aren't coming back, right? A lot of jobs that aren't coming back, and or jobs that aren't going to come back for a long time. Trump's talking about this transition to greatness. Q3, Q4 is, we're really going to steam ahead. And I mean, I'd love that to be the case, but I don't think it's going to happen that just like that, right? So, will there be another stimulus check? I think even a lot of Republicans would be open to another check, right, to get the economy kind of give it a kickstart. But in terms of the monthly, the monthly stuff, right, like the emergency money for the people proposal, just going months and months and months and months and months of stimulus checks. I don't see someone like Mitch McConnell going for something like that. Re-election, Trump will give people more money. That is a thought I've seen a lot. Well, it's an election year, so Trump is gonna give everyone the $2,000 a month, but it seems that just based on what he's saying is that he wants his his platform going into the election to be not that he bought votes, but that he got the economy going again, right? That seems to be kind of where he's heading with that. And I think if he was planning to give people more money, I think that he would be more rawing that right now, especially something to the tune of the Democrats. But if if the Democrats come up with this thing, right, like these monthly payments or whatever, it's going to look like a democratic idea, right? Because he other than saying that he would be open to another check, which the White House does seem like it would be open to it, right? But this whole monthly thing, that's the Democrats' idea, right? And it would make Trump kind of look like, well, he's just kind of going along with the Democrats with that. I think if he did have in his mind that he wanted to actually pay people that $2,000 a month or $4,000 a month right now, he'd be trying to get people to rally around it right now instead of it looking like a Democrat idea. Trump is the Orange Avenger. No politics, please. Still haven't received the stimulus money. If there's anything I can do in order to see if they're going to deposit. Zavala, go Dodgers, by the way. No, I mean, it's just to get my payment tool, right? By the way, get my payment tool. So there's a deadline to get your direct deposit information in there. Let's see, when did I do that video? Let's see, I can't find the video, but yeah, the deadline is basically May 13th by noon Eastern time. I assume they don't say Eastern time, but in a previous deadline they said noon Eastern time. That's the deadline to get your direct deposit information to the Get My Payment tool. My uncle is on SSI and SSDI, Stephanie Isaac, but he's married but separated. Will he get one? Yes. So married filing separately does not, that doesn't disqualify you from receiving the stimulus payments. If he hasn't gotten it yet, perhaps you can expect it May 13th because he said he's on SSI. I know a lot of SSDI haven't gotten it either. Dragon One, what if you were claimed as a dependent in 2018 but not 2019? So you would be eligible. So B, Kenko, Trump is Trump. Administration said another check is too premature. Well, what they're saying right now, you know, I'm going to talk about what Mnuchin said today, tomorrow, but basically what Mnuchin said today is they're not saying they're opposed to another stimulus. They're simply saying that they want to wait and see how the recovery is going, right, before rushing into anything. Okay, so just to kind of clarify that. Okay, so Becky says, I'm on SSD, received my $1,200 April 29th. That's awesome because that's consistent with what the Social Security Administration says. Delirium, any update on when payments will be made to those who have a representative payee? So I did talk about this a few minutes ago, and I wish I could share my screen here to show you, but the Social Security Administration is saying that for those with a representative payee who have not filed 2018 or 2019 tax return, they do not know when they're going to issue those stimulus payments yet. Okay. I'm on SSI. My parents claim me as a dependent. I'm over 17. If am I eligible for a stimulus check? Ray, no. You would not be eligible for a stimulus check based on your 2019 return if they claimed you. But you know, if there's some, I've seen a lot of questions pertaining to this, right? Like, hey, I'm on, even though I'm a dependent, but this. Okay, so the answer is no, right? If you were claimed as a dependent, right, in 2018 and 2019, you aren't eligible for a stimulus check. Now, if you are no longer a dependent in 2020, then you could get the $1,200 on your 2020 tax return if you otherwise qualify. Okay. My son received survivor benefits but aged out. Will he receive a stimulus? Okay, so you're saying that he used to receive survivor benefits, but now he's too old, right? Okay, so in that case, now if he's too old, right, now he's just like everyone else, right? So if he's otherwise eligible, he would. My son is in college. Will he get money with the second check? Nicole Dean. That's what Democrats are looking to do from what they've hinted at. To get my payments, Lajmini Miggins, I'll get my payment is still saying payment status unavailable, and it wouldn't let me claim my daughter because I don't have an IP PIN and have no way to get one. So I assume that you have already attempted to use the to get my PIN tool. And if any of you are in the situation where you need your identity protection PIN, you can go here and try to retrieve it. My husband. Let's see here. What about the Direct Express card holder that get their disability on the Express card? Right. So Direct Express should come so they're saying that Wednesday. So yeah, so if you have a Direct Express card, that's where you receive your benefits. That's where they're saying you're going to get your stimulus, right? There will be another wave of Direct Express deposits this Wednesday. Wow, Toey's Treasure says I got my stimulus on April 15th and I'm on SSD. That's really early for that group. Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of questions about representative payees. So, I mentioned it, but let me just see if I can copy and paste this. If anyone knows how I can share my screen on here, please let me know. But yes, representative payees. If you have a representative payee, then it doesn't make you ineligible. But it's just the IRS is saying they don't know when they're going to process your payment yet if you don't file a return. Chris Lewis, sorry I just joined. Maybe you've answered at my SSI. When should I start to panic? I would honestly wait until a couple weeks, right? Because they said SSI would be coming this week on May 13th for those with Direct Express or direct deposit, and they'll start mailing out paper checks to SSI on May 15th. Okay, so you have some time before you start panicking. Okay, I already see. Yeah, I'm an SSI. My check is pending for the 13th. So that sounds right. I'm a non-filer on SSI. Yes, you will get the stimulus if you're not claimed as a dependent. Donald James, mom has dementia, dependent on my sister for the last 5 years, meaning she's been unemployed, no tax filed for 5 years. Can she still get a stimulus payment? Not if your sister can claim her as a dependent. If she can't claim her as a dependent, then she can use a non-filers tool. Okay, Luis Rivera got my 1,200 by mail on May 2nd. Tony Hall, I get SSI, received mine on the 29th. Iris, hello. Toronto IEM, 28-year-old, claimed dependent by other taxpayer. Can I file non-filer? No. If they claimed you as a dependent, then you're not eligible. But you can, if they can't claim you as a dependent in 2020, right? You're over the thresholds, then you could get it on your 2020 tax return. Michael Turner, I beg of you to answer my question on SSDI. I should have gotten my check on the 29th of last month. Have not got. I get Direct Express. What should I do? Okay, so what I would do, definitely, where's your question go? These are going so fast. So, Michael, I would say that, okay, so if Get My Payment tool, so when you say I should have gotten my check on the 29th of last month, I'm wondering, is that what the Get My Payment tool told you? If so, I would be looking out for one of those letters, right? They're supposed to be sent within 15 days when the IRS thinks it sent you your payment. So I'd be looking out for one of those letters in the next few days. Well, maybe not next few days, but maybe next couple weeks. And, it'll tell you, hey, we sent you an economic stimulus payment of $1,200 delivered via, and then it'll say how they sent it, check, Direct Express, or whatever. Unfortunately, at this point, there's no live bodies on the IRS phone number, but I would look out for a letter. If you get that letter, right, but you haven't gotten your stimulus payment yet, you know something got screwed up, okay? But if you haven't gotten that letter yet, right, I would just chalk it up to the Get My Payment tool screwing up, right? So I wouldn't necessarily panic yet. I would kind of panic if you got the letter, right, but you haven't got the money in your account. At this point, I would chalk that up to just an error in the Get My Payment tool. Every time I check my status on the IRS website, get my payment. It says that the information I entered does not match their records. Is that normal? Yes, that's extremely normal for many people. I did a video this past week on some tips and tricks you can try for to get my payment to work for you. Question. My son is getting his benefits through my social security number as a family benefit. He has not received his money. And I want to e-file for him. He is homeless. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right, to use the non-filers. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. Okay. Like a lot of people were very concerned, like, hey, I used a non-filers tool, when it looked like SSI had to do that or whatever. No, it won't mess things up, right? Other than you'll spend 10 minutes doing it. And I have heard in some cases it has actually accelerated the process. Yeah, so here's an example. Bobby says, I'm on SSI and I filed using the TurboTax Stimulus Edition and got my check on April 22nd. So like there's an example right there of, okay, yeah, it turns out, although it seemed for a while that SSI would have to use non-filers or the TurboTax, that, it turns out they didn't. But now, they're waiting until this week basically for the first round of SSI, right? As opposed to those who did use the TurboTax one, which came out actually earlier than the IRS non-filers. Some of them got theirs a lot earlier. So it won't hurt you. Chaos Theory says, I already filed through TurboTax from my direct deposit. Do I need to go again, do it through the government? No. It might actually reject it if you try to go again through the IRS non-filers tool. It's one or the other, right? Either TurboTax or non-filers, because they're both doing the same thing. They're both filing a simple tax return for you for tax year 2019. Okay. So you don't have to do both. And there was actually a lady who asked me a question in one of the Q&As where she did the TurboTax for both her and her son, right? And then she tried to do the IRS non-filers tool for just herself. Okay. Her son got the stimulus on time, right? Kind of that third week of April there, but she didn't, right? So it seems that the fact that she did TurboTax Stimulus Edition and try to do the non-filers and the non-filers got rejected might have delayed. There might have been other things going on, but I think that could have delayed her stimulus check a little bit. Group home residents who are on SSI, SSDI, are they getting one? Yes, if they can't be claimed as a dependent. Now, there was some questions like, okay, will the stimulus payment go directly to the nursing home, right? Because Medicaid, a lot of the income goes directly to the facility, right? Well, this is stimulus check is not income, right? So it should go directly to the recipient and not to the nursing home, in theory, right? But we'll see what happens in practice. If second stimulus goes through, will rents go up? I mean, honestly, okay. Hypothetical world, right? Everyone's getting $2,000 a month, $4,000 a month, $6,000 a month, $8,000, $10,000 a month. Okay, if everyone's getting all this money now, yeah, prices are going to go up, because now you've just pumped, right, all this money now into our economy. Okay, yeah, prices are going to go up. Is a dependent a beneficiary? Marcy Gotts Harrington. Not necessarily. No, those words do not mean the same thing. So when I'm talking about a dependent, right, I'm talking about someone who they're basically supported by somebody else and they don't make a lot of money, right, for tax purposes, right? Someone else provides the majority of their support. Okay. But when you're talking about a beneficiary, that can have many uses in various contexts. But when I'm saying beneficiary here, I'm usually referring to like a Social Security beneficiary or something like that. So no, those words aren't the same thing. Bob A. Bong found out I'm getting mine on Wednesday. I'm on SSI. Awesome. That's what we're expecting. My son Pam, gets SSI and has a payee and hasn't gotten a check yet. Just hopped on, not sure. Yeah, we did touch on this. Yeah, so those who do have a representative payee and do not file a tax return, the IRS says they don't know when their stimulus will be processed yet. Eddie Rios, my grandma is on Social Security and hasn't received her money. Many of her friends did. Does she just sit back and be patient? Yes, and also keep an eye on her mailbox for the letter, right? The letter that says it. If she, like I told someone else previously, if she got that letter but she hasn't received her payment yet, that's a problem, right? That's when it's like, oh crap, what happened? But until she gets that letter, it's kind of just a waiting game, right? I told you a few weeks ago about the mail thief in New York City, where he got caught with over, I think it was over like $12,000 worth of stimulus checks on him. Okay, so folks should be checking their mailbox, right? Majority of mail fraud happens. Well, I don't know the exact statistics, but a lot of mail fraud happens overnight or the early hours of the morning, right? Where people had just retrieved the mail from their mailbox the day before. It would have been stolen. So, Uncle Junior says, is it too late to file a simple tax return for a stimulus check? Nope. And I will put a link to the non-filers in the chat. I saw some other questions about will Social Security, be eligible for the $2,000 a month stimulus if it happens? So, that's really up to. All right, well, first of all, are they going to propose that? Right? I could not see how the Democrats would not include Social Security, SSI, SSDI on their proposal for the next stimulus. I mean, as a matter of fact, right? I think. This a lot of people don't like this, right? But I don't think that gainfully employed individuals, right? There's people sitting at home right now who still have their job, right? But they're just working from home, right? And they're still making 100, 150, 200K a year. Contrary to what Sanders and Harris put out, they don't need it. They don't need $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, right? I think that they're a group where they don't need it, right? Then there's a group of people who, they were temporarily laid off, right? Now they're collecting, they were laid off, but now they're collecting unemployment, right? They're getting the extra $600 a week, okay? Some of those people will be called back to work, right, in the next few months, all right? I don't think that, Trump and Republicans want to give that group a stimulus. But then what about the people who don't get called back to work? Right? What about the people who are not attached to the labor force? Right? So we're kind of talking about SSI and SSDI. I think if anyone, those are the groups that, if there is a monthly concept in place going forward, those are the groups that would probably need it the most, right? Not the gainfully employed individual. But these blanket, so I think the Democrats are doing these blanket calls, right? For $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $2,000 to $10,000 a month stimulus, they're shooting high. Right? They're shooting for the moon. Pelosi herself said it's going to be big. Multi-trillion dollar is what she hinted at, because they know that McConnell and company will cut it down. Okay, but to answer the questions I'm seeing, I don't see any reason why they would not include Social Security beneficiaries, those who receive benefits administered by SSA in the next round of stimulus. That wouldn't make sense. I mean, they were included in this one. Why would they exclude them from the next one, right? That wouldn't make sense. Okay, someone was saying, John Padilla, I think the filing date was moved until June. I don't know what that was. I can't find. Okay, I've not filed my 2019 tax return. When is the deadline? So it was, it was moved to July 15th. But, you know, just like any other year, you can still file an extension and get that moved up to October 15th. And I'll put a link here. Let's see here. File tax extension. So you can file a free tax extension, right? So if you file this by July 15th, you can actually get extended through October 15th. But I would say, you know, if you're looking at getting a refund, you should probably file that thing sooner rather than later. Abby makes me sick because I have a payee. I'm going to be skipped again. Well, yeah, I mean, I hope you're not skipped entirely. It's unfortunate that, you know, you're going to get it later than most, right? Okay, Gabe says, just want to let you know I'm an SSDI. I have received my payment on April 17th. I got that early because I signed up for TurboTax Portal. Yeah, there's another example, right? So find that non-filers a TurboTax Portal. Doesn't hurt, right? Just don't do both because that could hurt. So let's see. Spencer Logan just want to let you know I'm gay. Okay, that's fine. Victor Ortiz, I submitted my 2018 and 2019 tax returns, plus I received my Social Security by direct deposit. Why would the IRS portal say that I'm getting a paper check? So I don't have all the facts there, but I guess my question would be, did you receive a direct deposit refund on your tax returns, or did you owe the IRS, or did you get a check refund? Because what it seems to be for some people, you know, even if they're on Social Security, if they filed a tax return, the IRS is going off the tax return. Because remember what the IRS said on its website. When the IRS says they're getting information from SSA, the people that they're describing there are people who did not file a tax return, right? So people in your situation, Victor Ortiz, you're not in that group, right? I would suppose that the IRS is just going off your tax return, okay? You know, because even though you get Social Security, you also file a tax return. In that case, I would think that the IRS would just go off your tax return. Stimulus check was sent back because it had the wrong address, which is the address that the IRS had, although it was wrong. How do I get my check now? Okay, so your stimulus check was returned to the, let's see, the IRS. Okay, so I would usually say, you know, file a change of address, but it looks like it's already gone back. So what the IRS will likely do in this situation, they will wait until you tell them your new address. Okay. And how does one do that? Well, there is a change of address form. I'll pull up the link here. Let me put the link down here. Okay. IRS change of address form. Okay. So you file this right now. The IRS says, oh, now we have her new address. Okay, now we can send it to her. Of course, this is a paper filed form. The IRS is not processing paper right now, unfortunately. So you might have to wait for that. Other alternative is if you haven't filed your 2019 tax return yet. And sorry, maybe you said you already had, and I forgot, but you can file your tax return, right? And that would communicate to the IRS your new address. The SSA getting direct deposit May 13th. Also, I mean, I would have hoped you've gotten yours earlier, Teresa Dukes, but you know, we're looking at another round of direct deposits for SSI at least on May 13th, and you could be in there as well. About filers. Gaurav, quick question. Why multiple proposals, not even single, is accepted? Okay, so I think what you're referring to is there's kind of multiple next stimulus proposals. So, if you've seen those kind of the Emergency Money for the People Act, the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act, the Sanders one, the Harris one that came out recently, they're very short proposals, right? And in my opinion, maybe this was harsh, but I think a lot of them, it's just kind of publicity stunt, right? It gets their names in the news, right? Bernie Sanders proposes $2,000 a month, right? It gets his name in the news again. But what's going to happen, right, is the Democrats are supposedly going to put forward kind of this unified draft CARES 2 package, supposedly this week. That's what our guess is, right? And it's going to take bits and pieces of, all these. It could take bits and pieces of all these little proposals that Democrat, Congress people have thrown around, or could have ideas that we haven't seen before, right? So, why are there multiple Congress people calling for $2,000 a month stimulus? Well, why are multiple people doing it? Well, they all kind of want their name in the news, right? I mean, a lot of it is just publicity, but there's also like a more real aspect here, which is to kind of like show support, right? Show support for the idea. Okay. But yeah, the Democrats are going to come out with a huge draft CARES 2 package. Logan, I filed through TurboTax accepted by IRS on April 10th. I'm on SSDI with dependents. Now my Direct Express has a pending $1,200. I screwed out of the money for my kids now. I hope not. I really need it. Man, I'm seeing this question a lot. So, like I said, folks, earlier, and I'm going to talk about this more tomorrow, but a group of senators has actually sent a letter not yesterday, on Friday to Mnuchin and also the IRS commissioner, and I'll just read it to you. It says, we are concerned that individuals receiving SSI, VA benefits, Social Security, Railroad Retirement, or Social Security Disability Insurance who did not receive their dependent payments in a timely manner will face significant hardship. Okay, they're talking about the 500. Many of these individuals were already struggling prior to the COVID-19 pandemic and are even more financially strained now. Given these questions, these senators want Mnuchin to answer the following questions. Well, I'll read you the most relevant one. They're saying, what steps has the Treasury and IRS taken, or what steps do your agencies plan to take to respond to bipartisan requests from Congress to explore ways to provide $500 dependent payments to Social Security, SSI, and VA beneficiaries who haven't received it? So people in Congress are aware of the issue, okay? And hopefully, Treasury and IRS responds to this letter. But if and honestly, they might be able to legislate something in CARES 2, if the Treasury doesn't want to get on that. Yeah, Gary, you're an SSI, should I receive a payment with it 13th? Yes. If you're on Direct Express or Direct Deposit, tax free can taken forever. We on Social Security, are we still getting one? Yes. Okay, Chino, what's the on-filer's portal? Put my information in, but did not put my direct deposit number. And I just gave them my regular account number. It said it was going to account ending in 4471, not mine. Chino, I'm not sure what you mean by say you did not put your direct deposit number. You just gave them your regular account number. But yeah, so you're seeing an unfamiliar bank account basically on there. So that is unfortunately common. So I've talked about this a lot. I was talking about this a lot last month, right? But oftentimes what happens if you file your tax return with a tax preparation service or software, they will assign you a temporary bank account, right? That especially if you get your money on like a TurboTax card or the Emerald card or whatever, and you don't know the account number associated with that card. So that's what a lot of people are seeing get my payment. So what has happened is a deposit tries to go to that temporary account number, it bounces back, and then people just end up getting a paper check. Okay, Mary Peters, Congress asked like the stimulus checks come out of their pocket. They don't understand. Apparently, some of us people had to work for a living, not behind a desk. Yeah, I mean, I would agree somewhat with that. I think a lot of Congress people and on both sides of the aisle, they a lot of them never had to work a day in their life. let me just say that much. Let's see. My daughter dropped off my Social Security. Will she get a stimulus check? Yes, if she is otherwise eligible. When can people expect to get their stimulus when they collect Social Security? I've had Direct Express for the last 8 years. So Andrea von Valkenburg, yeah, all I can say is look out, especially this Wednesday, because they're doing another batch this Wednesday. So let's see. PUA, is PUA taxable? Yes, unemployment is generally taxable. Yeah, so that is that. Now that's federal, right? But states have different rules. Okay, but for federal income tax purposes, yeah, unemployment, PUA taxable. Lawana Martin, thank you for your support. Thanks for letting me know I trust. Thank you. Big Enrich, 1975. I had to amend my taxes to add injured spouse form, but the amendment was done via mail. Do you think they're looking at this or will it take a while? It will take a while. Buddy Weiser, why do people keep asking about the 2000? Well, I mean, people keep asking about the 2000 because, I mean, it's money and it's money in their mailbox, right? I mean, I can see the concern about this. See how John filed, returned my wife's ITIN instead of her social. I've sent an amendment to correct her social, but not sure if they'll correct now. What do you suggest to get stimulus? Well, I mean, that's all you can really do is amend that. I have a question. I received SSI and I'm married to someone that has an ITIN number. He didn't claim me, but he put me down as a spouse. Will I get a check? Some people say yes, and some people say no. This is Danielle Ortiz. Danielle, I think I answered this question in my big long Q&A, but yeah, I think I was a little confused about the kind of your language there when he said he didn't claim you, because if you're married to someone, you don't claim them as a dependent, right? But if he filed jointly with you and he puts you down as your spouse, right? Married filing jointly, spouse, then yeah, that would disqualify you. I would say I remember your name, Danielle. I'm fairly confident I answered your exact question in my hour-long stimulus Q&A video. I put more information in there. John Padilla, is it true the IRS only deposit? I'm not sure what she meant by that. D.D. Wallace, will I get $2,000? My mom claims me. Well, for the $2,000, that is all up in the air right now. First of all, will it actually happen? That's up in the air. Who's eligible? That's up in the air. But according to some Democratic proposals, like, for example, the most recent one, right, the one that Sanders and Harris came out with, they want $2,000 per person and $2,000 for dependent up to 3 dependents, right? So that's their idea. What are the Democrats going to kind of put together in their CARES 2 draft? That's one thing. What actually passes is another. But we do know that many Democratic lawmakers were concerned that adult dependents they were left out of the CARES Act. So I imagine they're going to push for that. Okay. The current population of the United States of America is 330 million. Yep, that sounds about right. My brother-in-law said that IRS said he was going to get the EIP check on the April 29th direct deposit, but no check in his account to child support arrears. Take it. That is very possible. People are asking, what about representative payees? How would they get their stimulus check? Okay, so I talked about earlier in this live, but they will. So I'll just read you again what it says. If you have representative payee, the IRS plans to use information provided by Social Security Administration, right, to help generate your stimulus payment. In most cases, this is what they're saying, the IRS will send your stimulus payment to representative payee using the same method the representative payee receives your monthly benefit. Okay. However, the IRS hasn't yet determined when these stimulus payments will be processed. Now, for those of you with representative payees, okay, you should remember that the representative payee is not responsible for managing the stimulus payment. This is not a Social Security benefit. This is not an SSI benefit. This is a payment administered by the United States Department of the Treasury. Okay, they do not have to account for it, right, when they do their accounting for how they managed your benefits, because this isn't a Social Security benefit. It's a payment from Treasury, right? But because Treasury is using information from SSA on how to get people their payments, okay, it looks like it will go to the representative payee accounts, okay? But just keep that in mind that this is not a Social Security payment, okay? It's not, if you want to use your stimulus payment independently, apart from your representative payee, right? The representative payee should happen, okay? This is not a Social Security benefit that is to be managed by the payee, or that the payee should that has to account for, right, in their accounting. I'm an SSDI. How come I didn't get payment for my dependents? Again, it's just the IRS screwed up, but senators have pushed something to Mnuchin and the IRS commissioner. How is the IRS doing this, by Social Security number or state? Well, the IRS is doing it by Social Security number. You're an auto advocate. Can we talk PPP? Do you think they will change the way we can use it? So I assume that you're asking about, because they're pretty strict right now, right, with the 75% thing, how, it's in the name, right? Paycheck Protection Program. The purpose of it is to help small businesses, give small businesses basically free money if they use it to pay their people and to keep them from having to lay off their people, right? That's the whole point of it. I don't know if they're going to change that, right? I know that some Democrats do want to change that to make those requirements a bit more lax. But honestly, this is free money from the government to small businesses, right? And it can be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would personally be surprised if they got more lax with how they're requiring people to use it, personally, right? Sharon Clark, still waiting for non-filers. Yes, so non-filers, Unfortunately, they're a group that the IRS doesn't really give a lot of guidance for. They kind of just said, hey, fill this out and we'll get you your check eventually. But unlike, the Social Security, kind of those kinds of groups, non-filers, there isn't a lot of guidance for you all. I do know that some non-filers who especially use the TurboTax one, because the TurboTax one came out about a week or so before the IRS, non-filers tool. A lot of those folks, they received their stimulus relatively early. I mean, not 100%, but relatively early. Those who use the IRS portal, remember that thing was crashing a lot. They say it wasn't crashing, but it was crashing, on the day it came out. So many people used it, and, it's just, where were you in line, right? That's how I'm looking at it. Okay, Nestor says, I applied for PUA unemployment in Pennsylvania. Do you know how many $600 weekly stimulus will I get? Well, I am IMT 6 total payments this week. How many total can I get? Is it 13? Okay, so you get PUA for as long as you are on unemployment, but it stops on July 31st. Okay, so but what CARES Act did is it said, okay, your normal state unemployment, we're going to add 13 weeks to it, right? So many states have a 26-week unemployment, right? That's how long you can be in unemployment typically. CARES Act said, well, we're going to add 13 weeks on top of that, right? So you would be if you're still eligible for unemployment and still collecting your unemployment benefits from the state, even if it gets reduced down to $1, right? You're still eligible for the $600 PUA weekly. Let's see. I'm a payee. Fanny says, I'm a payee for my parent. My mom gets Social Security and SSI. Can I use it on filer? And which income do I use? So your mom, if your mom's on Social Security, Fanny, and SSI, she should not have to do anything. Oh, well, okay, I see what you're asking. So you're concerned that the IRS seems to have dropped the ball for those representative payees, right? And you're asking, okay, can I do the non-filer? Maybe that'll help your mom get her payment faster. Yeah, you can use it. You can use a non-filer for her, right? That could make this faster, right? Because the IRS hasn't given us a timeline on when they're going to figure out the representative payee thing, right? So using the non-filer could very well expedite it. But then you ask, which income do I use? Well, if your mom only gets Social Security and SSI, right, and those are the only money she receives, she should not have to report any income on her taxes, right? So I don't know if you see the non-filer, right, but basically ask your name, just very basic information. So I would say I'm not sure what you mean when you say what income do I use, because she really wouldn't have any taxable income if those are the only things you get. Angela White says, what about the homeless? Will they get a stimulus check? I did answer this question as well. And maybe that Q&A was too long. It was like an hour. I know, I'm sorry. But homeless are eligible for a stimulus check. And I think where a lot of people confused is that in original proposals for, what became the CARES Act, some folks wanted a minimum income, right? We know there's a maximum income, right, for stimulus, but some folks actually want a minimum income as well. And so, that got scratched though. There is now no minimum income for stimulus. You can make $0 and you'll still be eligible for stimulus. However, in the case of a homeless person, presumably they don't file a tax return, they'll have to use non-filers, right? So they'll have to get to a computer with internet access. It'll ask for a bank account, right? And if, like I told the lady who was asking about her son, don't think you can put your bank account in there, right? Because the IRS will reject it, right? Because it's going to look for his name. And if your name's on the account, that's not going to work. So I assume he doesn't have a bank account. So, he would have to probably be looking at a paper check, right? So he needs an address, where that money could be sent. And that could be your address. Well, Angela, I'm assuming you're speaking for somebody else, but that could be your address, right? But yeah, homeless are eligible for stimulus check. Child support stimulus money when, Michelle Wright? Depends on the state, because when stimulus money gets seized from someone who's behind in arrears on child support, it looks like what states are doing is, okay, now that's being taken out just like a tax refund, right? Sent to the state, whatever they're called, whatever their department is, for the state to distribute, right? So there's not like one date I can say, oh, the IRS is sending the payment to those who are owed child support on this date. That's a state by state matter at that point. If you owe back child support, will they take all of it or garnish it for what is owed in arrears? They should just take it for what's in arrears. Still no payment. Lisa Valaro. Okay, I'm asking about the next check. If there's going to have the same clause 16 of somebody claimed you. It sounds like you're asking about, are you ineligible with the next stimulus check? If there is one, will you be ineligible if somebody claimed you? So I know what Democrats have proposed is, they want to make it the population of people eligible for the next round a lot bigger than the current round. John Bates, is there a number for New Jersey unemployment that I can talk to? A human. I'm sorry, John. I don't know the specific state unemployment number for New Jersey. Okay, so Jay says day was April 30th and still no direct deposit. So yeah, I've seen this come up just anecdotally, and what I've seen in some cases eventually happen is that the individual just ended up the status changed to paper check eventually. I hope that's not the case for you, but Jay, I would look out for that letter from the IRS, because they said that. So there's two scenarios here. One was they deposited it somewhere on April 30th, right? If that's the case, then they should be sending you a letter, right? It says within 15 days. 15 days from April 30th is coming up this week, right? So I would keep an eye out for that letter. Or they didn't deposit anywhere April 13th, and their system to get my payment tools just screwed up, and you might be looking at a paper check, right? That's what, for a lot of people that said, hey, I had this direct deposit date in April, never came. What's up? Well, a lot of them, it actually ended up, they're getting a paper check, unfortunately. Mike 5959, help. I have 3 dependents. I'm an SSDI and use non-filer, but only got my spouse and myself. So I assume those were, when you say dependents, Mike, I assume you're referring to dependent children under the age of 17. But yeah, so this is a common error. Many IRS screwing that up a lot to get the $500 to people. Oh, the portal shows you. I didn't get my check. J Buckets, thank you. You're welcome. Jonathan Cyborg, why did you disable super chats? Is that the one where they pay you? I think. I just, I don't want to. I think. Lots of people have asked, okay, how can I tip you or whatever? I don't really want to do that. I think that people are. Put it in your emergency fund. That's what I would say, and that would make me happy. Okay, I don't have my 1,200 yet. Where is it? I've heard that the 500 on 2020 tax returns. Yes, Linda, that's correct. So the only recourse right now, if you didn't get the $500 for a dependent, is to file you'll claim it on your 2020 tax return. However, that's not very helpful to those who don't normally file a tax return, right? Because then they're going to have to go through this exercise of filing a tax return in 2020. And maybe the IRS is going to put out some simple tax return in 2020, right, for non-filers to get the 500. That's kind of dumb, right? Because people need the money now. But But yeah, Linda, you are correct. That's what the IRS is. That's the only answer the IRS has right now is, hey, you'll get the $500 when you file your 2020 return. But some Congress people are trying to get a better answer than that. Terry Tallman, bets are starting at deposits, got one pending in bank account. That's awesome. Yeah, that is actually consistent. This wasn't on the IRS website anywhere, but a Treasury spokeswoman did say first or second week of May, right, for VA. Got on SSI as of January 2020. Do I need to do anything? So let me, I know I can't share my screen, but so here's what they say about if you began receiving Social Security, SSDI, or SSI on or after January 1st, 2020. Okay. You have to, if you didn't file a tax return for 2018 or 19, you have to use the non-filers tool. Okay. So let's see who asked that question. Yeah, Carol. So if you're a new recipient, January 2020, and you did not file a tax return for 2018 or 2019, you have to use the non-filers tool. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, here it is. Okay. What, Tip Harrison, what children SSI will they get a check? Yeah, so if you know children are receiving benefits, that doesn't necessarily make, you know, so if they're a child and they're a dependent, they're not eligible for the 1,200, right? But if they're under the age of 17, they would be eligible for the 500, and that's true whether or not, you know, that's just the case, right? Whether or not they're you know, receiving benefits. Chris J, I heard people who have payees are waiting longer because the IRS doesn't know how to handle that. That is exactly the case. Artemis says, you mentioned before that the IRS is going to send out its first round of stimulus payments for SSI recipients, and I thought this was May 12th or so. Can you please confirm? Yes. May 13th for direct deposit and direct express. Paper checks will start going out to SSI on April 15th. Do we on SSA have to do anything? Because we have been hearing so many different things. And Crystal, that is exactly what I wanted to go through today. I'm going to put it here. SSA guide for stimulus. So this guide from the SSA, they just put it out a few days ago. It's great. It covers all the situations, right? And of course, it's the official answers. The reality is different, right? Like, for example, in here they said that, you know, Social Security recipients who don't file a tax return should have received their $1,200 payment by the end of April in the same way they received their Social Security benefit. We know that wasn't the case, right, for everybody. So, you know, this document is just going to give you the official answers, right? But it is a good document. I wanted to walk through it here in this live, but I couldn't figure out how to do the screen share. Maybe I need to research that next time. Payment status unavailable, SSI or SSDI. That's wrong info. Anyone in SSI or Direct Express, get it checked. Amy, I have, let's see, for those. Do SSI dependents get stimulus? No, they will not get their 1,200. Nimi TV, how was your Mother's Day? It was great. You know, where we live, it's just so hot. So we went closer to the coast, and actually I gotta pick up food for my wife here pretty soon. But yeah, it was a great Mother's Day. Tina Johnson, yes, who's on fathers. Dean Mize, thanks, man. Johnny Munoz, any idea when the IRS is going to start processing tax returns? I filed in late February, got a 60-day review code. Okay, yeah. So, you know, we know, Johnny, that the IRS did start calling back volunteers, right? But last I heard, they didn't get enough people volunteering. So if you kind of look in this article, I didn't mention this in the updates, Maybe I should have. But it says IRS seeing shortfall of volunteers, considers recalling more employees next week. This was on May 7th. So this was published 3 days ago. Thanks for bringing this up, because I read this article, but I didn't mention this in my daily updates. But it's actually maybe I should. So it's basically saying that the IRS wanted volunteers, right? So presumably these would be people who could start picking up phones, who could start processing paper returns, right? But they didn't get enough volunteers. Okay, so they are they're thinking about actually just starting recalling more employees this week. And so that means to me, what that means to me is that I think that the IRS is going to hopefully start processing paper returns. Maybe, I don't know about in this month, but hopefully starting next month. But here's the thing. They have, I don't know how many, but probably literally thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, maybe millions of pieces of paper, right? Because you think of some people's tax returns are 100 pages long, 200 pages long. That could be just one person. They have these pieces of paper stacked in these trailers somewhere, warehouses somewhere, and they're going to have to get through them. That's going to take time. So even if they start processing paper returns as early as next month, when are they going to get to yours? I don't know. Maybe you're on top. I don't know. But I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. Pam C, thank you so much for doing these videos. You're welcome. Miss Happy Apple, Pelosi was just on the national news, and it sounds like she wants another stimulus package to go out there and spend money to boost the economy. Yeah, so we know she had a call. Pelosi had a call with her caucus, with her whips, right, on Wednesday evening, and the reports was that she lent her support for $2,000 a month stimulus. Right, I covered that in, I don't know which day it was, but one of my updates this past week. So yeah, we know that. And that was my whole thing, right? When I put out the video where I said that, Bernie and Harris are just kind of doing this for kind of publicity stunt, because Pelosi's already kind of signaled support for $2,000 a month, right? Whether McConnell and Trump sign off on that is a different matter, right? But yeah, no, Miss Happy Apple, you're right. So Pelosi has said she wants to think big. If you saw my video from yesterday, I showed you a snippet of her. Where was she? She was on C-SPAN. Right, where the guy asked her, well, what's the price tag on this? 1 trillion, 2 trillion? She's like, you're getting warmer, with a little kind of coy smile, right? But yeah, so we will be seeing. I would be shocked out of my mind if Democrats don't propose more, big stimulus checks in the CARES 2 package. But whether that gets passed is a different story. Charles Nichols, do we need to pay the money back? No. If you're referring to the stimulus, no, you don't have to pay it back. Now, there is a misconception, of course, that this is, your refund is reduced next year by the amount of your stimulus. That's not true. This is a new tax credit, right? So if you're going to get $1,000 refund anyway next year, let's say stimulus didn't exist, okay? And on your 2020 tax return, you would be owed a $1,000 refund. Okay. Now let's say stimulus does exist, which it does. Okay. Now, if you didn't get a stimulus check, you'd get a $2,200 refund on your tax return next year. It's just that the government's paying you $1,200 in advance with a stimulus check, right? So you're still going to get that same $1,000 refund you would have gotten anyway if stimulus never happened. Donnie Hall, what is your insight in the possible second stimulus package? What's your opinion on what should happen? So it seems to me that Trump, and Mnuchin has kind of hinted this today as well. Trump is talking about this transition to greatness, right? Whatever that means. And he's talking about how, we're talking about how Q2 is going to suck, but Q3 and Q4, he wants to get it roaring again, right? In time for the elections. So it seems to me that Trump wants, able-bodied Americans to be back at work, right? As soon as possible. And there's not an incentive to do that if some people are getting $10,000 checks a month, right? But but of course that, and he's talking about the payroll tax cut and all that, but who does that leave out, right? And at least in terms of the stuff Trump and Republicans are talking about, it leaves out those who are not recently attached to the workforce, right? So I would love for those folks, right, who, really the most needy aspects of our society, to get more payments. And I'm not opposed to seeing monthly payments for those groups. But what I get kind of pissed about are these proposals that, this last proposal, a household, family of 5, 3 children, making up to $200,000 a year, getting $10,000 a month tax-free from the government. I think that's ridiculous, and I think that it's just hype. And that's why, I kind of get a little pissed about that. But I would love to see more, direct payments to those who really need it the most, right? Not saying, hey, everyone should get it, even if you make good money, just to kind of be able to say, hey, I try to get you, $10K a month. Anyway. Okay. I messed up. I'm not going to get a stimulus. It's okay. Can I go somewhere else? I have no one to help me. Carol, you say you messed up. I don't know what you mean by that. Carol, were you the same one who asked me that you're on SSI as of, I think you were. You asked me if you were on SS. So you said you're a new SSI recipient. You said you messed up. Yeah, Carol, could you let, so I feel sad for you. You said I messed up. I'm not going to get a stimulus. It's okay. I can go somewhere else. I have no one to help me. What do you need help with? The non-filers or, okay, Carol, you said yes. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here. Steve Wynn says, is the extra $600 a week benefit from CARES Act passed March 27 taxable for federal taxes? Yes, it is taxable. Yeah, but yeah, Carol, if you need help filing the non-filers, okay, I did a walkthrough video of it. Okay, so if you're able to watch me here, you should be able to figure out the non-filers, and I'll put a link to the walkthrough for you. For that. Okay. Let's see, where is it? Oh boy. Wow, I have a ton of videos. I don't even know. Sorry, Carol, I'm looking for the walkthrough video. Okay, here we go. Okay. Carol says, I get confused easy. It's okay. Carol, yeah, I really want you to get your stimulus, okay? I mean, that's why I make these videos. So please, everyone, don't spam me here, okay? But Carol, I really want to help you get your stimulus. If you send me an email here, privately, I really want to help you. If that means me doing the tool for you myself, if you're comfortable with that, I'd love to help you, okay? Yeah, because it really takes 10 minutes. And if you feel you can't, okay. I filed late on my state tax return, have a refund. You know when they're going to process. So you're talking about state tax return here. No, I don't. Sorry, I don't have a direct answer to that. Okay. All right. So Nestor, can please tell the HR bill number so I can keep an eye on all the stimulus bills. Yeah. So really the only one that's going to matter at this point is the CARES 2, right? And of course, when that comes out, I'm going to show it on my screen, right? And you'll see the HR bill number right there. So you can go to GovTrack or wherever and check it out. All right. So, okay. It's been an hour and a half. I hope I answered a lot of questions, but I got to go eat dinner now for Mother's Day. But this was really great, and I want to do more of these. All right. But I'm going to put a stimulus update out tomorrow. I'm going to talk about what Trump said yesterday on Fox and Friends. Going to talk about what Pelosi said today. Going to talk about what Mnuchin said today, and also going to go over the letter from some senators to Mnuchin and the IRS commissioner on getting the $500 for dependents. I'll also show on my screen the stuff about Social Security and representative payees because I thought I could do it here live, but I couldn't figure that out. Anyway, all right, I got to go because I hear my name being called. But hey, have a great rest of your Sunday and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Bye-bye.